Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2021 My Team Career Mode. Episode number 51 today for the Belgium Grand Prix in Season 3. If you guys did miss the previous one around Hungary, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. That was a tough day in the office for not only me, the Mick Schumacher, and the whole team as a whole. You know, at one point, I thought Schumacher was going to go through to win that Grand Prix. In the end of it, we weren't even on the podium, either of us. It was a tough one. Obviously, that pile-up at turn 1 involving us with Ricciardo and Valtteri Bottas, and it meant that we only got one measly point. But at the same time, damage was limited because Lando Norris himself, our main championship rival right now, had a grid penalty, started a lot lower down than he would have liked, and also got caught up in the pile-up himself, and so couldn't really make too much progress. He was stuck behind Verstappen, it seemed like, for most of the race, to be honest, so Verstappen actually did us a massive favour at holding him up, because I think he was within 1 second of the Dutchman for the entire race, just couldn't actually overtake him. Obviously, Hungary, very, very difficult to overtake. So, Lando only got 1 point on us. So, it could have been a lot worse. And on the flip side, on the other side of the garage, for McLaren, Daniel Ricciardo was able to finally find some form this season and get his first win of the season under his belt. Like I said, it was a tough day for the entire team as well. Mick Schumacher finished a little bit higher than us, but, you know, he did lead into turn 1. And had it not been for a 2-stop, probably would have gone on to win that race. But I don't think we as a team had the tyre where exactly to do that, and definitely Schumacher's AI, we've seen it before in the past in the earlier races, maybe doesn't quite have the skills or the experience to try and, you know, make the tyres last a little bit longer than some of the other AI cars around him, you know, Ricciardo, Leclerc, Sainz, a little bit more highly rated as a base level AI rather than Schumacher. He starts off as a bit of a lower rated AI driver. We've obviously boosted him, but no matter how many boosts you give these AI drivers, sometimes their kind of characteristics from their base stats kind of bleed through their driving, if you know what I mean. So yeah, he's 91 focus though, still, despite that difficult race. So I'm hoping that he can still be on a good show in qualifying, and maybe this time do a little bit better in the race. Like I said, only 1 point lost to Lando in that last race is really not that bad for what it could have been. You know, an unfortunate start to the race, and then for the rest of it, pretty unfortunate as well, because we almost did overtake Lando actually if it hadn't been for that curb in sector 2. But it is what it is, and we go on through now the activity timeline. Not too much time left before the season break in game in terms of what we can do on the activity timeline, and then we'll go through and kind of finish off before the Belgian Grand Prix. And we have a small little matter to take care of in terms of spending some cash and getting some extra resource points in the one of the timeline events. So we're going to accept that and spend, you know, 50k, not really that much, to get some R&D, and it actually proves useful. I couldn't see into the future, but if I did, there you go. Our chassis upgrade on the tyre wear failed, so we have to repurchase that for half the price. So kind of useful to have those extra R&D points. Also, that's going to be useful to get any extra R&D points we can now get for the rest of the season, because going into this Belgium Grand Prix race weekend, then we're met with an email about next year's regulations. So there's going to be apparently multiple departments, but they're not sure which ones yet, so we'll find out soon. I'm kind of hoping that that includes the engine and the reliability side of things, because those have been too stable in my opinion so far in our career mode. You know, those haven't been reset yet in the career so far. Would be kind of nice, especially reliability, to kind of have that be a bit more of an issue again in the career mode series. But we are having an R&D regulation change. That's at least confirmed to us, so hallelujah, there will be some difference into Season 4 through the winter break. But that does mean we have to actually make sure we save enough R&D points to try our best to obviously negate those, you know, changes, because the R&D chart, you can see, it is very, very fine though. We're all bunching up as you know, as does happen in real life Formula 1. When the rules are stable, all the teams will start to converge on each other. The top teams have diminished returns, and we've seen that in ourselves. You know, the FOM car, we've hardly got any more room to grow. So in a way, we need a regulation reset to actually allow us to have a bit of, you know, change in, you know, the pecking order and whatnot in terms of actually getting upgrades, because I don't have many upgrades left. You know, we're pretty much nearly at a maxed out car, and we found out, looks like the maxed out car for the FOM car is maybe not going to get as high as a maxed out Mercedes or Ferrari, for example. So, you know, it's basically a wall of development that we hit, that the car can't get any quicker, and we have to do, you know, the rest of it ourselves. So kind of good in a way, in that kind of sense as well, that the regulation change will come in for Season 4. Going into Belgium then, just before we get to the racing action, we do have some very worn components on the engine. We saw that last episode around Hungary. There was that small moment where I thought we were going to be hit with an engine failure whilst already being down the order. But no, thankfully it resolved itself, but the engine was very worn. Control electronics being the hardest hit kind of row you can see there, so we have to take a new control electronics because they're only allowed 2 in this season. We have to have a 3rd one now to get to the end of the season. So that's a tough one to take. We are going to have to take a grid penalty for this race, but it's only one small one because we're only going to take a new control electronics. I'm not going to take any others because I reckon our car and I should go well around here. So therefore, with only one engine penalty, it's not the end of the world. We'll still be within the top 10. So we're going to go for that strategy and try and eke them out as much as we can. And one thing that's already a positive going into this race weekend is the weather forecast. We've got no rain forecast for Sunday, which obviously is great in general terms. We've had a lot of rain recently at the British Grand Prix and around Austria, but also Belgium. I am yet to have a fully dry race in career mode. Season 1 and Season 2, we had at least some rain. Season 2 was changeable. Season 1, I think, was full wets and then inters for the entire race. So I'm yet to actually have a race where we can see how the dry tyre even performs over the course of the race in terms of the tyre wear strategy maybe versus, you know, the 1v the 2 stop. You know, I have no clue. I don't know what the tyre wear like is around here because obviously I don't do that much racing outside of the career mode, as you guys know, in terms of online stuff. So yeah, I haven't experienced that yet. So it's going to be cool to see how we go and how the car handles, but also a bit daunting because if the car is horrendous on its tyres around here, then that's obviously an issue for us. But we'll find out when we get to Sunday. Right now, though, trying to do the best job we can. Ideally, we want to be aiming for the front row because with the penalty, you know, we need to be as high as we can to try and negate that. We're going to have to see how the pace is like. Right now, we got through into Q2. That was no problem, but that's very, very tough to kind of really tell the true pace. There's been so many times we've seen, you know, Mercedes be fastest in Q1, and then they're nowhere in Q2. So this is the real session where we get to see what the pecking order and the pace may be like for our car across the line. P6 then, behind Ocon, Verstappen. Schumacher's still doing his lap, but the rain, it may be staying away on Sunday, but the rain, there's some rain coming right now as we speak. The second half of Q2, the rain is falling, so others may not get a better lap in, and Schumacher is one of them. Mick Schumacher, he's knocked out. P11 just misses out in the top 10 shootout. Lando's through, our main rival. Both Alpines are through, with one in the Mercedes, Valtteri Bottas. Hamilton, a usual silver hour suspect, knocked out in the second part of qualifying. The 2 Ferraris with Sainz looking strong, but Schumacher being out. We're P7. That doesn't fill me with much confidence in terms of the actual out-and-out dry pace, but I think Schumacher left it too late for his first and only run in Q2. And then into the top 10 shootout, we're not making that same mistake. We're not leaving it too late. We've gone straight out. You can see it looks like it's maybe time for intermediates. It's that usual thing where it looks far too wet on the visuals of this game, but the actual physics are telling us there's still enough grip on the soft compounder tyre. It's a very odd situation. It looks very odd, but we're here. It is raining consistently, so it's going to get wetter as we go through. So basically, as soon as I load into Q3, I just spammed the button to go on the flying lap and went straight out there. And it's basically who sets the lap the first. I don't know who's actually first out there ahead of me. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 cars who got out ahead of me. There are a couple who are behind me, so we have a good chance of setting a very good lap here and maybe actually getting close to that front row that we want to allow us to, you know, negate that penalty that we've got for the engine. So here we are in Sector 2. It's looking even wetter, actually, because the droplets are streaking down even quicker now on our screen. But the grip is still there. The traction's still there, as you can clearly see and hear, you know, with the engine audio. Not too much wheel spin. A little bit of oversteer here and there, but nothing I can't handle, basically. But as we get into Sector 3 now, I'm starting to feel the damp patches a little bit, taking it a bit easy for that right-hander. Snap of oversteer and catching the car as it slides through an aquaplanes a little bit into the last sector. Valtteri Bottas goes quickest of all, so he was the first man out now on this circuit. So let's see if there's anyone in between Valtteri and myself. If not, it could be P2 for us. Looks like Lando, I think, is maybe there. The orange dot. Yes, he is. Lando takes pole position. Can we match him? Can we get close to him across the line? And it's P3. 1.7 tenths off Lando on pole position, and like I said, the rain is falling, 78% rain, so it is going to get heavier, and Russell comes in Leclerc out there on a very wet circuit. That is it. That is it. So, like I said, it's all about who went out first in that session. Lando went out second, but he has a quicker car than the Mercedes, of course, so he was able to get pole position. So for us, P3, that's crucial, you know, because P3, I think, should become, I think it's a 5-place penalty, is it not, for one engine component change, or it might be 10. If it's 10, will be P13. If it's 5, will be P8. But Lando's on pole, and he's in a quick McLaren. We know how good that McLaren can be in a straight line on this game. So this is a massive race for us. We have to come back through from being down the order on this starting grid and try and make up the places. It's a good circuit for it on the F1 game, especially with the OP slipstream down the back straight through Blanchimont into the bus stop chicane. So we're going to go out there and give it full beans on a completely dry Sunday around Spa-Francorchamps.
Welcome along then to the Belgian Grand Prix, the race that gave us the maiden victory for the Jordan team in 1998. And in the same team, the phenomenal debut of a young Michael Schumacher. There's always something special around one of the many corners of this fan-favourite circuit. Spa-Francorchamps today, a circuit that spans 4.35 miles. There are tons of elevation changes along the way too. 19 corners making up this circuit, with 9 of those to the right and the remaining 10 to the left. This track is a great one for fans of pure speed. The average lap speed comes close to a whopping 145 miles an hour. A warm welcome to Anthony Davidson, who's beside me in the commentary box today. Let's start by getting your take on Daniel Ricciardo. That was a great win in the last race. Can they keep that momentum going this weekend?
It's always nice to come into a Grand Prix weekend on a high, but your expectations are based much more on your practice and qualifying runs. So it's the momentum from those sessions that they'll be hoping to carry into the race today.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have the owner driver, Ocon, Daniel Ricciardo and Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Russell, Leclerc and Max Verstappen, Mick Schumacher, Hamilton, Pierre Gasly and Tsunoda, Stroll, Eilert, and Guan Yu Zhou and Nikita Mazepin, Giovinazzi, Latifi, Matsushita and Christian Lundgaard. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Well, you join us on the starting grid, and I am much confusion. I'm very confused. We are still somehow in P3. You guys saw, I did take an engine component change. The control electronics, I took an extra column that wasn't in my allowance, so I should have been given a penalty. I don't know, for whatever reason, the game has decided not to give me a penalty. So this is amazing news for us. The F1 gods clearly looking down upon us in this Grand Prix, seeing Lando on pole position, our main championship rival, and seeing that we kind of desperately need to be close to him to try and limit the damage that I know he could do if he goes on to win this Grand Prix. But from P3, now we have a way to stop that, because you have a great run down the Kemmel Straight. Even the run in towards Rouge might be a possibility if we can get a good launch into turn 1. But we've been given a gift from the F1 gods, so let's try and use it from the second row of the grid, right behind our championship rival. It's looking like it may be a one-stop, but we've chosen an aggressive one onto mediums later on. But it's all about this opening lap right now. 5 red lights to the Belgian Grand Prix, and we're underway. Lando, a slow start from pole position. Could we make the dive into turn 1? We're going to go for it, but Ricciardo sends it like an absolute torpedo. What the hell was the Australian doing into turn 1? Makes contact with his own teammate, and then hits me into the Ferrari. Alonso's got no front wing, and the virtual safety car is out. We've got damage. We've got a pit for a front wing change, but we've not even got a full core safety car to help us. We're going to have a virtual one, which will end before we even get to the end of the lap. But what on earth was Daniel Ricciardo doing into turn 1? Look at this camera car. He comes out of nowhere. He literally comes out of nowhere. You can see him in my mirror on the right hand side, but whilst, live, whilst doing this, I wasn't concentrating on the inside. I was looking forwards, and you don't really expect a car to come out of nowhere at this point or into turn 1. Lando's gone a bit slow off pole position. There's a bit of a gap. I'm going to go for it, but I kind of back out of it already now, knowing we can't get it. Start to lock up and then out out of literally thin air, Ricciardo comes out from the right-hand side of our screen, makes contact with his own teammate, I might add, and then we hit the Ferrari because we're squeezed in. But what is he doing? Last race's race winner, the man who spun us last race, makes contact with his team. Maybe Lando's even got damage, you know, actually thinking about it. So it may not be a complete disaster. Ricciardo may have just hampered his own teammate's race there, because surely Lando has a floor and bargeboard damage from that bit of contact. This is what happened with Alonso. Because I didn't know what was going to happen into turn one, I just slammed on the brakes because I wasn't about to become, I wasn't about to, enter a pile-up between the two McLarens. But in doing so, I actually took out Alonso's wing, and we made some contact with Leclerc, but it all happened so quickly into turn one, you can't really react that quickly to it. Ricciardo coming out of nowhere, that just happened in a flash. I don't know what on earth he was doing. In my opinion, he can't be doing that. That's just such an erratic move. You may think differently of it, but for me, he's caused that incident. He didn't need to make that dive. He shouldn't have made that dive. The corner's far too tight. He didn't even make the corner. He had his teammate to make the corner, and now we're going to pay the price. He's going to pay the price, and Alonso as well. Just so unnecessary. I can't say it was like on purpose or anything, to help out his teammate Lando, because of course he maybe has damaged his teammate's car. And actually the funniest thing about this entire thing, or the irony here, is if I had that grid penalty, I probably wouldn't have been in that position to get that contact and damage from Ricciardo's dive bomb. But here we are then. What's happened has happened. Lap one, later on, the virtual safety car has ended. Ricciardo, with no front wing, is holding up Carlos Sainz, Verstappen and Hamilton. We're trying to get in the middle of it. Ricciardo is so slow without a front wing that we're able to try and overtake the Red Bull, despite him having a full healthy wing, and I've got half a front wing on me. But there you go. Eventually, Verstappen, Sainz and Hamilton get through, and we're racing Ricciardo for P7, but he's so slow through this right-hander there with no front wing again. Brake checks me a little bit there with no front wing. He's having to lift off, of course, but in this moment in time, I'm right behind him trying to get slipstream. I forgot that fact, and he brake checks me again, and I break my entire front wing. At this point, I'm not going to lie, severely pissed off with Ricciardo's AI. That time, though, that front wing breakage, to be honest, I should have seen it coming, that he was going to lift off, for that he had no front wing. But I actually forgot at the time how much of an issue that is actually in terms of the turning, and I just didn't realise that being right behind him was probably going to be a mistake. But it doesn't really change anything, because I was going to be just as slow coming in to the pit lane. Now everyone has a front wing to change. Ricciardo, myself, Alonso, Leclerc as well, and now we're in. Instead of a set of mediums, we're going to strap on a set of hard tyres, the white wall, and our plan is to go all the way to the end. We're going to go all 21 remaining laps on the hard compounder tyre and get to the end of this Grand Prix. The others have not opted for that. Alonso on the soft compounder tyre, Ricciardo medium, Leclerc as well. There is a long way to go in this Grand Prix, but I just don't think doing an extra stop is going to help us. But Alonso is looking very quick as he has a snap at us into Eau Rouge on the soft compounder tyre. I'm thinking here now, there's no point really fighting Alonso. He's not in our race. He's going to pit again for a second pit stop because he's now on another set of soft tyres. So he dives down the inside. We're going to make it kind of easy for him and let him through, lift off the throttle and let him by, because there is just no point fighting him. He's going to be quicker than us. And in a way, I actually want him to go catch Ricciardo and maybe then squabble with him, and then we can catch both of them and re-overtake both of them eventually. But he's not in our race. He's pitting again. But yeah, we have a long race to go. Whether the hards go all the way, that's the challenge I have now today. I have to make them go to the end, because that's the only way we're going to recover any kind of way into this Grand Prix. But at the moment, it is very grim reading. Our main championship rival, the one chasing us down the championship, he leads the way. 1 second to Valtteri Bottas. Ocon in a fabulous P3 now. Oh, is that engine smoke? Yes, it is, as Valtteri Bottas is slow. And that is a retirement from the Silver Arrow. It's a disaster for Mercedes and Bottas. He was doing very well, to be honest, in P2, but more bad luck falls upon Mercedes in this career mode series. I don't know what's in the coding or the water when we play F1 career mode. The last 2 games, the Mercedes have been flopping ever since we get to season 2 onwards. I'm not complaining, though. Obviously makes a difference from real life, but Lando now leads the way from Ocon in second place. Then Verstappen elevated to P3. He's in a close fight with Sainz, and then Hamilton trying to follow on. Schumacher up into a decent P6. Remember, he got knocked out in P11, so he's actually recovered very well to P6 in the first part of the race. So at least there's a bit of, a tinge of positivity in the team, at least, on this race so far. But, we're only now in the actual time ladder in P20 there at the bottom of the standings, and we've got a long race ahead of us, and there's a mountain to climb to get anywhere near even Schumacher, our teammate, to be honest. This may go on to be a defining race, and that lap 1, turn 1 moment with Ricciardo, that dive bomb made by the Australian, that may turn into a very decisive and major part of this season's championship. We may look back at this episode and think this is where it was maybe won or lost. I don't know. I don't want to sound too negative. Let's keep the faith and let's keep going, because you never know. Never say never in Formula 1, but we have kind of been unfortunate. There was no full core safety car. If there was, I would be a lot more positive, but because there wasn't a full core safety car, there's still so much time to even bridge in terms of clean air to the cars we're catching before we even try and overtake them, so it's going to be tough. Meanwhile, speaking about overtaking, George Russell, though, has just gone and caught Mick Schumacher and got up into P6 himself there. So the Alpines looking very good, of course. Ocon P2, Russell now up into P6, and Schumacher maybe showing that our car doesn't even have that much great pace. So what's the hope of us even catching up that much if the pace is not even there to match in the top end, which kind of, shows even more so that P3, that kind of lucky P3 from Q3 in the rain, that was a really good position. We needed to use that position and try and, park the car and maintain a top 3 result today, but we haven't been allowed to do that, and so instead, here we are, lap 7, and we're now catching up to a pack of the Alfa Romeos and Haas. So we are starting to see some overtakes. Alonso, Ricciardo getting some overtakes done. So there is some action involved in this race for us today. Don't mistake it. But obviously, it's not the kind of action I want. It's for P19 at the moment, which is kind of depressing. But we're going to have to press on and try and do the best job we can. And we'll be on the rear wing of Giovinazzi pretty damn soon now. Entering the next right-hand, if we make a move around the outside, easy does it. Kind of roll the car through 4th gear and then into the left-hander up into P19 then, making some sort of progress. Of course, though, you've got to remember, these other cars, apart from Alonso and Ricciardo, obviously, are so much slower than us on the R&D chart, so we should be kind of flying past them as we now do try and fly past Nicholas Latifi and also Fernando Alonso. Oi, 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 very, very close. We've had some fantastic fights, I must say, with Alonso's AI ever since Season 1 on this game, and that was a really nice one. So fine at tapping the grass and the side of Alonso's car, but he just about gave us enough room to work with. Into P15 now, the next car up is, well, it's Daniel Ricciardo, so this may be a little awkward, potentially, when we catch up to him, because, I'm not going to lie, the red mist is still kind of there in the cockpit for me at this stage of the race. I've not forgotten what happened on lap 1 as Ricciardo goes for a ballsy move into a Rouge side by side with the Haas of Matsushita. We're going to close up to the Japanese driver and we're going to get that double slipstream catch up to Ricciardo, get a little bit close and just, weave a little bit towards him just to kind of give him our displeasure at what went on, kind of almost like Formula 1 sign language, if you will, getting a bit close to him on purpose just to kind of show we were a bit irked about what happened on lap 1, but ultimately we keep it clean. We're not going to do anything silly, and we overtake him, and we move on to overtaking Guan Yu Zhou in the Williams. Bit of a drag race, but our car is looking supremely quick in a straight line with ERS at least being deployed, and obviously these days with the ERS being so upgraded, we can deploy ERS for pretty much most of this lap, but this is the big issue today on the bottom right. That's the issue we have today, the tyre wear. We're already at 20%, and we're only on lap 8. We have a long way to go relative in this Grand Prix and these hards. And the thing is, I want to push to catch cars, but also I need to make sure I'm not going too hard, leaning on the tyre too much, because otherwise we're going to have no tyres at the end. We may be caught by the 2 stoppers at the end if we're not careful. But at this stage of the Grand Prix, lap 10 this is now, into P11 just about, as now we've got the Aston Martins having made a pit stop. Ilott just comes out behind us side by side in towards Rouge, Stroll and Tsunoda up ahead of us, so we are into just about outside the points paying positions, but Ilott's going to be pretty damn quick here, but you can see how much of an effect not having the full safety car has done to us in this race. You know, we're nowhere near where we were, and if there was a safety car, I think we probably would have been here probably already by lap 5, but we're here lap 10, and we're in P11 only, and there's so many big time gaps between cars. And at the end of that lap, you can see Lando Norris going through. He's got a 4-second gap in the lead, so he is dominating this Belgium Grand Prix. He's opted for the medium tyres, interestingly enough. Ocon on hards, Verstappen on mediums. So can Verstappen close up to Ocon to get P2 here? So we've got a bit of difference in terms of what teams are thinking tyre wear wise. Mercedes with Hamilton think they need the hards. Ferrari are on the hards as well. Russell, Gasly, Schumacher is on the medium. So Schumacher, to say that he had to do a 2-stop last race around Hungary, he thinks he can pull off a 1-stop on the medium tyres, but he's actually lost time to Gasly. He's been overtaken by one of the AlphaTauris in the pit stops. So that's actually very worrying. And actually, Schumacher's only just up the road from us. You can see in the mini-map, he's not performing too well. Our car maybe it's just not that great around here, which is making my chance of coming back in this race even worse. But it may just be Schumacher being a bit slow, which is kind of unfortunate that he's not got the same sort of speed he was showing earlier when he got back-to-back race victories. But anyway, away from him, back to our race. P11 looking to try and get into the point-paying positions. Every single point is going to matter in this fight with Lando Norris. I can just tell this championship could be decided by a couple of points, as it was last season, and we need to make sure we get every single point, but it's going to be tough. Stroll's actually looking pretty quick, and Tsunoda is holding him up, though, so that's good. The only saving grace, can Tsunoda back him up into us, and can we get the double overtake maybe done in the span of one lap or two? I think we're going to get a good run towards the bus stop chicane, so could we get the move done in the straight line, at least on the Aston Martin, and then get the AlphaTauri on the next following sector? Let's go for it, using as much ERS as we can down this straight. Going to save a little bit for the run out the final corner, but oh, Stroll with a bit of a slow in the left-hander. What is that? That almost gave me flashbacks to Ricciardo on lap 1 there. I don't know why Stroll kind of almost hit the brakes in a straight line there, or a subtle left-hander, and we kind of ducked out of that to make sure we didn't hit the back end of him, and so he kind of almost let us by in a way into P10, so thank you very much to the Canadian. And now, can we overtake the Japanese driver Yuki Tsunoda into turn 1, gaining quite a bit in the brake zone, just showing the difference of the speed of AlphaTauri versus our car. AlphaTauri, they've fallen off quite a fair bit this season. It's kind of been a shame, really, because, you know, Gasly, he had such a great season too, especially in the first part, if you remember. And then this season, AlphaTauri have just not had the car for him. But at the moment, saying that, he's actually ahead of Mick Schumacher, my teammate. It's a checkerboard of AlphaTauri in our team right now. P7 down to P10. Meanwhile, lap 13 then, a little bit later into this Grand Prix. Verstappen closing up on Ocon, going for a move on Ocon, round the outside, on the medium tyre, of course, on the quicker compound, and he makes quick work of it. He's up into P2, the Red Bull having good pace, and to be honest, you know, Alonso probably could have shown good pace if it wasn't for that front wing damage that he had earlier on, so a bit of a shame for him. Once again, some poor luck is coming down upon the Spaniard. Lap 17, Schumacher finally looking a bit quick on the outside, and it's a copycat move to the one Verstappen made on Ocon, and he thankfully re-overtakes and gets back ahead of Pierre Gasly, having gone behind the Frenchman in the pit stop phases. It would seem maybe the tyre wear was a bit too much for Mick on the soft compounded tyre, but thankfully he's back up into P7. Remember, we care about where Mick is in terms of, you know, the constructors as well, because Ferrari and McLaren, they're both trying to catch us. In a race like this, they will start to catch us a little bit, so every point matters, also for Mick Schumacher as well. Don't get it twisted. The constructors is not a given thing. We may be in the lead, we have been in the lead for a while, but Ferrari and McLaren are starting to worryingly chip away, and it's because of things like this in the race. Lando leads, and Carlos Sainz, well, he's charging on Lewis Hamilton, and he may just go for the move to get up into P4 then. A few more points for Ferrari. Hamilton defends, though. The two have to go side by side, and Sainz has to really commit down the inside. It's a fabulous bit of racing there between the Spaniard and the Brit, but Sainz gets the better of him up into P4, and that's some crucial further points for Ferrari compared to ourselves. But we rapidly then move on to the last lap of the Grand Prix. Yep, we're already there. Unfortunately, nothing else was to happen for mine and Mick's race. like I said, the lack of a full core safety car really hurt us in this race, because the virtual, it doesn't really bunch you up that much. Well, it doesn't bunch you up at all. It keeps you at a steady, you know, the interval gaps between cars is kept in the virtual safety car, and then we pit under green flags. So, and we had all that time loss on the green flag. So it was very tough going. We've done well to recover from nearly last place to P9, to be honest, on this same set of hard tyres. Look at the bottom right. The tyre compound icon is in orange because we're nearly at 70% tyre wear on the front left and right. So we've done well to actually manage the tyres and get to P9 and not lose enough time to get re-overtaken by the cars behind us. But what a dismal day in the office. P9, 2 points, and our main arch rival in this season, Lando Norris, gets a race win. Pole to the win, 25 points, and it's all because of his teammate being a kamikaze torpedo into turn 1. This could be a crucial race.
McLaren have pulled it off. They've won in spectacular fashion here today. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I'd say it was down once again to good, consistent driving, nailing the corners, working to the track conditions and perfecting the team's strategies. They got all of these things right today, and the results speak for themselves.
Our drivers are making their way out for the podium celebrations, and it's going to be McLaren picking up the winner's trophy. Congratulations to the entire team for that fantastic performance.
Well, it's the third win for him in this season. He matches us now, 3 wins each for Lando and myself, but we're definitely not level on points in the championship, as he has now got a load. And, well, this has just been a big race. This is a big race for the championship. And we don't even have that many races left, you know. We're over halfway. We're getting towards 2/3 of the way into this season with the 16-race shortened calendar. You know, intense racing, but it means, you know, a race like this can really turn the championship on its head. You know, 2 points for us, 25 for him. Thankfully, he didn't get the fast lap of the Grand Prix, so at least we kind of, you know, get a respite from that 1 extra point, but oh my word, he is now 21 points ahead of us. We cannot afford to have a race like this. I know I said that after Canada, but we have another race like this where we can't afford a race like this. We have to be on it now every single race. We have to be beating Lando, and if we don't beat him, we have to be right behind him, 1 position behind, to reduce the deficit and damage he's doing to us in that specific race, because otherwise this is going to be tough, because the ball is now very much firmly in his court for the Drivers' Championship. Constructors, we're still in the lead, but McLaren and Ferrari are gaining on us rapidly. Only 13 and 19 points respectively. That's nothing when you have 2 cars in the running sometimes. So that is also going to be quite nerve-wracking. This, as I said earlier in the race, after lap 1, this could be a defining moment in the entire season. I guess we'll find out. You're going to have to check out next time how it goes at the Italian Grand Prix. Guys, if you did enjoy this one, hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.